Romance of Sui in Tang Dynasties Chapter 59.
Today, we are diving deep into a really dramatic moment, the final catastrophic fall of the Zheng kingdom and its capital, Luoyang.
It's a key turning point in the whole Tang transition.
It really is. So, to set the scene, you have Wang Shichong, the self-proclaimed Zheng king, and he's completely cornered by the Tang forces under Li Shimin.
Utterly. The city is exhausted. The sources all agree on this. The soldiers are tired. Morale is, at rock bottom.
They're running out of food. Surrender is on everyone's mind. But there's this one huge obstacle, this one guy holding out, the famous general Shan Jiangson.
And he's holding the south gate. Just this one man's fierce resistance.
It's incredible.
And that one point of resistance is really the trigger for everything that follows. It really breaks down into three fascinating layers of drama that happen almost all at once.
Okay.
First, you've got the brilliant, surprising trick that finally breaks the defenses. Then second, you see this amazing high drama between the defeated kings, Wang Shichong and Du Jiande.
In their prison carts, right?
In their prison carts, yeah. And finally, and this is maybe the most important part for what comes next, you see how these intense personal loyalties, this brotherhood among the winning generals, starts to challenge the new imperial authority.
That's a fantastic roadmap. Let's start with that deception, because Shan Jiangson is holding that gate, and then what happens?
The dusk is falling, and suddenly there's this noise, gongs, drums, a whole column of troops shows up.
Okay.
And they announce they're led by Princess Yang'an, and that they've been sent by the Xia king, Du Jiande.
Whoa, wait, but Du Jiande had already been defeated and captured by the Tang, right?
Exactly. So for Shan Jiangson, this must have felt like, a ghost army showing up. He thinks it's the Xia king's daughter, maybe leading a breakout force, bringing some kind of hope.
So he falls for it.
Completely. He reports the good news to Wang Shichong, and, crucially, he opens the gates to greet them.
And the people behind this ruse this wasn't just some low-level trick, right? The sources point to some very high-level people.
Oh, absolutely. This was orchestrated by the Tang general Chai Shao and his wife, who the texts call the Chai County Princess.
So she's a major political figure herself.
A huge one. Chai Shao is the son-in-law of the Tang emperor. This trick was planned at the very top. And the army they were leading, it was the famous Niangzin, the women's army.
Women's army. And as soon as those gates opened, it was just chaos.
Absolute chaos. Shan Jiangson, this heaven-sent hero, is suddenly swarmed by top Tang generals. Kwa Tu Tang Yin Kaishan, they're all there. He fights like a lion, but the women's army, they were the real game changer.
What made them so effective? What was different about them?
The accounts say they fought with reckless abandon, but it was their specific tactic. They were armed with these round shields and cutting swords, and they didn't try to fight him head-on. They rolled under his horse.
They did what?
They rolled right under his war horse and cut its legs, bringing the whole animal down. In that kind of warfare, taking down a commander's horse it's basically checkmate. He's neutralized instantly.
Wow, that's an incredible detail. A specialized unit for a specific job.
And it worked perfectly. They captured Shan Jiangson, and in that same sweep, they also captured the infamous Zhu Can, the so-called cannibal king who'd been hiding out in the city.
A good day's work for the Tang, to put it mildly.
A catastrophic day for Wang Shichong. Shan Qiang's gone. His will to fight just evaporated. He didn't make a last stand.
No final battle.
Nothing. He just walked out of his palace already bound, carrying the official maps and state seals. A total, immediate surrender.
And what was the reaction from the Tang side? From Li Shimin, the Prince of Qin?
Oh, the sources give us a great quote. Li Shimin basically mocks him. He says something like, Wang Shichong used to call me a mere boy, but this great strategist who relies on cunning. He was caught by a simple trick.
So it's a kind of poetic justice.
It's definitely framed that way. The great deceiver, defeated by a better deception. Which brings us right to that second act, the drama inside the prison carts.
Right, because they round up all the captured royalty. You've got Wang Shichong, his son, Zhu Can, and the already captured Du Jiande all thrown together.
It's an incredible scene, and the contrast between the two main kings is it's profound. Wang Shichong completely breaks down. He's weeping, blaming himself, saying he misled Du Jiande and caused his downfall.
He's worried about his family too, right?
Yeah, he's agonizing over what will happen to the women in his palace. It's a very human, very raw display of despair.
And how does Du Jiande, who is seen as the more honorable of the rebels, how does he react to this?
At first, he just closes his eyes, ignores him. But Wang Shichong keeps crying, and finally Du Jiande just explodes with contempt.
He lets him have it.
He really does. The source says he He calls him and his followers a band of pus-filled failures, a truly vicious insult.
Wow.
And then he gives this speech. He basically says, a great man has two paths. You either leave a great reputation that lasts forever, or you become infamous for all time. But what you never, ever do is act like women and children.
A direct shot at Wang Shichong's crying. It's all about honor, even in total defeat.
More than survival, even.
Yeah.
And for the final insult, he demands the guards move his cart away, saying he doesn't want to be contaminated by Wang Shichong's babbling.
That is just incredible theater. And what did the ordinary people watching all this think?
That's maybe the most fascinating part. The common citizens watching this procession, they weren't neutral. They were firmly on Du Jian's side.
Really?
Yeah. They remembered him as being upright, someone who cared for his people. They saw his queen as wise, and they all blamed Wang Shichong for his downfall. So the public verdict was already in.
So even as the Tang are taking over, the people are still making these moral judgments about their fallen leaders.
Exactly. But all this drama between the defeated, it kind of pales in comparison to the conflict that's brewing among the victors. This brings us to that third theme, brotherhood against the crown.
Right. So the city has just fallen. It's chaos. And two of Li Shimin's best generals, Qin Shubao and Zheng Ziji, they have one thing on their mind.
Just one thing. Not loot, not glory. Find Shan Shangshin.
They find him in a temple, chained up.
The Earth God Temple. And the sources describe this really emotional reunion. They're embracing, tears. I mean, these are sworn brothers. And Qin Shubao immediately starts trying to save him.
But not on political grounds, on personal ones.
Precisely. He reminds them of their oath. He says, we originally planned to stick together through hardship, now that we're one family. He's basically saying, our bond is more important than which side you fought for. He begs him to join the Tang.
And while this is happening, something else happens that really tests their commitment, right? A messenger arrives.
Yes, a retainer rushes in with this urgent, kind of strange news. A man named Jia Runfu is forcibly moving Shanshan's wife and daughter.
Forcibly.
Yes, but for their protection. He's taking them to Qin Shubao's mother's house. And this is a key moment for understanding this idea of Yiki, this code of brotherhood.
Explain that. Why is that so important?
Because protecting your brother means protecting his entire family, his legacy. And you do it before the authorities can get to them.
Yeah.
Qin Shubao and Zheng Ziji immediately understand. They say Jia Runfu is a man of righteousness, Yiki, and he's doing the right thing. They're already taking responsibility for Shan Qianjing's entire family.
And then they do something even more audacious.
Astonishingly bold. Zheng Ziji just walks up, takes the lock and chain off Shan Xintin's neck, and declares he's a hero, not some common criminal.
So they take him. They take a high-value prisoner of war.
They physically escort him out of the temple and take him to their own lodgings. It's a breathtaking act of defiance against military protocol.
But that can't last, right? I mean, the official Tang administration is moving in.
It can't. And that's when the real collision happens.
Yeah.
Li Shimin is restoring order. His officials are cataloging treasures. And then General Kwa Tutong shows up.
And he's got an official decree.
An imperial edict straight from Li Shimin. And he is specifically looking for one man.
Zhang
Shangshin. The order is explicit. It lists the prisoners to be locked up and sent to the capital, Cheng'an, for judgment.
And Shan Shangshin's name is on that list.
Right alongside men accused of regicide and killing Tang envoys. It's a death sentence, basically.
Yeah.
And the order is non-negotiable. Lock them up.
So Kwa Tutong hands this order to Qin Shubao. The tension must have been just unbelievable.
So you can just imagine it. Qin Shubao is reading it silently, and before he can even react, Zheng Ziji steps forward and he just cuts right in.
What does he say?
He looks Kwa Tutong in the eye and says, flatly, Shan Shanshan is our good brother. He's with us at our lodging.
He just admits it.
Admits it. And then he makes this incredible promise. He says, we will return a Shan Shanshan to you when we reach the capital, Cheng'an.
What does that even mean? He's guaranteeing a state prisoner.
He's telling a general who is acting on a direct order from the prince that this is no longer an official matter. It's a personal one. The Brotherhood is taking custody, and they will answer for him at the capital.
And the other generals back him up.
They do. Others step forward, saying, look, we just won you this massive victory. Surely we can protect one man. It's a united front.
So why did Kwa Tutong back down? He's a senior general with a direct order.
Because he's also a smart politician. This group of sworn brothers, they're the heart of Li Shimin's army, starting a fight with them right now in the middle of a newly conquered city. The risk of a mutiny, or at least shattering morale, was just too high. He made a calculated decision.
He let them have their way for now?
He yielded. He basically said, okay, I'm just following orders, but you take responsibility. He shelved the warrant. Okay, let's shift scenes.
You know, when we look back at history, the spotlight always hits the great generals, the decisive battles. We hear all about Wang's stunning victory, how he crushed these rival states and captured these huge figures like Jiande and Wang Shichong. But the victory itself, that's just the overture. We're diving into the messy, critical, and often really strange cleanup that came after.
It's the moment of maximum risk, really. Yeah. And, winning the war is one thing. That's about military might, securing the peace. That's about administration, political calculation, and, fascinatingly, about spiritual interpretation.
Right.
Wang wasn't just left with captured land. He had powerful captives and a whole stack of problems, from logistics to, prophetic dreams.
And to unpack that stack, we're going to trace the immediate administrative overhaul, look at the surprisingly deep personal loyalty shown to some of the defeated, and then get into how this confluence of spiritual guidance, specifically a gatha, a cryptic poem, and an imperial dream, played a direct role in life or death decisions, right at the top.
And just to set the stage for you, we are talking about decisions being made by the ruling family. Wang is the brilliant general, sure, but the ultimate authority, the Emperor Tang, he's the one who delivers the final verdict.
Yeah.
His mother, Empress Du, his court strategists, they're all part of this intense negotiation of power and, fate.
Okay, so the first thing that really jumps out from the source material is just the ruthless efficiency you need to manage the sudden influx of territory. The military high command, they don't linger at all. Princess Chai, famous for commanding the lady army, she immediately pulls out, she's gone. And she's followed by Qi Guoyan and Li Rugui, who head back to Yi County. It's like the whole military apparatus just packs up and disperses to focus on new borders,
leaving this massive administrative vacuum behind.
Exactly.
Right, and that vacuum lands squarely on the shoulders of people like Xu Maogong. He comes back from Lishu, the newly captured Xia territory, with this crucial and often heartbreaking report. And this report is just essential because it shows you the immediate chaos of a fallen state.
It's deeply sobering to read. Maogong's findings really lay out the tragedy and the finality of defeat for the people at the top.
Exactly. He reports high-level suicides. The official Ling Jing had hanged himself right there in the court. He chose death over capture. And even more tragically, Empress Cao and 4 of her palace maids. They'd also hang themselves in the palace. It's an immediate self-inflicted purge of the old regime.
And in the middle of all that, there's this one small, chilling detail he notes.
Yeah. The daughter of the fallen ruler was just gone, nowhere to be found, a missing person in a sea of newly acquired citizens.
And the local people are understandably just distraught. They're lamenting the capture of their leader, Du Jiande, and they are not welcoming the new Tang army at all.
They're hesitant to help, to cooperate. And that's the classic challenge of conquest, right? How do you turn opposition into at least reluctant acceptance?
And Xu Maogong's move here is just a masterclass in governance.
It really is. He doesn't use force. He immediately gains their trust by severely disciplining his own troops. He makes sure they, and the quote is, committed no offense against civilians.
That one act of restraint, that's the tactical move that mattered more than any battle plan.
Totally. Once the citizens saw that discipline, they agreed to keep their stores and provisions for the new army. He secured the food and the loyalty in one single move.
And he cements this whole transition by appointing Qi Shangxing, who he just describes as old and steady, to oversee Lishu, bringing immediate stability.
And that is the hard, cold, logistical face of victory.
But interwoven with all this efficiency, we get this profound glimpse into a different kind of code, this remarkable personal loyalty that existed between these powerful rivals, even with death hanging over them. So the focus shifts to Shan Xianzin, a captured general who is now awaiting certain execution.
And Xu Maogong, the same guy who is so efficiently running the cleanup, he makes a point of seeking him out personally.
It's incredible. It shows how these personal bonds could just supersede political conflict.
It does. And Shan Jiangxin had these deep loyalty networks. His friend, a man named Jia Renfu, had already escorted Shan's family to Qin's own mother, Qin Po Mu, for safekeeping. Their security was guaranteed.
And Maogong didn't just offer moral support, right? He backed it up with serious resources.
Oh, absolutely. He dispatched an officer, 20 guards, and 300 ounces of grain and money, all to make sure the family's journey to the capital was safe and, well supplied.
Think about that. A defeated enemy's family is being protected and funded by the conquering general.
It speaks volumes about the mutual respect these men had for each other, a recognition of honor.
And Shen Yongsen's reaction to all this support is it's incredibly poignant. He accepts this fate, but he does it by intentionally subverting this powerful cultural saying.
Yes. The sources remind us of the proverb. A bird about to die sings sorrowfully, a man about to die speaks kind words. It's this cultural expectation that, the doomed will offer final laments or blessings.
But he rejects that.
He completely rejects that soft ending. He says he has no kind words to speak or a sorrowful song to sing. He dies on his own terms, content the one thing he cared about, his family was protected by his friends. That statement, it just confirms his fatalistic acceptance, but also the enduring power of his relationships.
So from these localized field loyalties, we pivot to the ultimate display of power back in the capital. The triumphal procession into Chang'an sounds like it was an absolute spectacle.
It was pure political theater. Wang, decked out in embroidered robes, golden armor, riding this magnificent horse captured by his general, Jiande. And the parade included all the high-value captives, Wang Shichong, Jiande, along with all these seized royal artifacts from the old Sui dynasty. As a visual declaration, the old world is gone.
And the captives are delivered to the place of final judgment, the Grand Court of Revision, the Dali Si. This is basically the highest military judicial holding facility, right?
That's exactly right. It's where enemies of the state go to await the emperor's final command. And this is where the contrast becomes truly shocking. They're thrown into this small, filthy, poorly lit room. The other prisoners are described as ghastly, skeletal.
Yeah.
And Jiande, who was a hero to his people, is immediately described as having lost his heroic spirit.
So this is the standard dehumanizing treatment for defeated enemies.
It is. But this is where those loyalty networks we just saw in the field, this is where they kick in at the capital level. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Because the standard procedure just gets thrown out the window. A burly jailer arrives, asking specifically by name for Wang, that's Du Jiande, and General Shen Yongsen.
And they're pulled out of the squalor, moved to a separate clean room. It has a bed, a table, chairs, basic furnishings.
This is immediate high-level intervention. It's not an accident.
It's not at all. Du Jiande, the Xia king, is getting VIP treatment. The jailer explains that 3 days before they even arrived, a Mr. Sun, who was likely the influential Sun Ansu, had already visited.
He gave the jailer gifts.
Gifts and specific instructions to prepare and care for the Xia king. It was all arranged in advance.
So Du Jian's treatment was political, prearranged, but Shen Yongsen's, that was a rapid outpouring of personal loyalty, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Messengers arrive right then from various lords, which probably includes Xu Magong and others who respected Shan, and they come bearing bedding, luggage, a jar of wine, and all these different dishes of food.
And they apologize for not being able to visit.
Yeah, they apologize, blaming official duties, but they demand he gets good treatment.
It's just a remarkable scene. You have to imagine these two powerful men. Weeks ago, they were leading armies against Wang. Now they're prisoners awaiting death, and they're sharing a vintage jar of wine and a good meal in the imperial dungeon.
It's this bizarre form of battlefield camaraderie that just cuts straight through all the official political hostility.
It shows you that in this era, the bonds formed by mutual military respect. Sometimes they are thicker than the blood of your own political allies.
They're able to just momentarily put aside the reality of their situation and share a meal, all thanks to the strength of their personal connections.
Okay, so we've covered the logistics, the personal codes of honor. Now we jump straight to destiny. Because while these two are having their VIP meal back at the palace, the ultimate fate of the empire and its captives is being decided by spiritual guidance.
This part of the story reveals the profound role of spiritual belief in actual operational policy. So in the palace, Empress Duquesne Wang's mother and the emperor's wife has this very vivid dream. She sees a golden arhat, which is essentially a revered Buddhist saint, an enlightened being, and he bows to her and asks for his disciple to be returned and ordained.
The disciple, he says, was brought in by her son.
And the connection is immediately confirmed when Qin Wang arrives. He has the missing piece of the puzzle, this secret story from the campaign.
That's right. He recounts how he was nearly captured by Shen Yongsen himself.
He was, until the holy monk Tang Sanzang intervened in a stone chamber. The monk hid him and then gave him a cryptic 4-line gatha, a Buddhist prophecy poem, before just vanishing.
So the Empress realizes this prophecy is the context for the Arhat's request for his missing disciple.
Exactly. So now they have a cryptic dream and a 4-line prophecy poem, and they have to decode them to figure out who the disciple is and what fate awaits this captive.
And the Empress brings in the intelligent concubine, Yuan Zaoi, to help interpret the Gatha.
And what's fascinating is how collaborative this high-stakes interpretation is. Zaoi approaches it like a code breaker. She looks at the first line and identifies that it clearly hides the name of the Shia Lord du Jiande. Then the second line, she suggests, refers to a filial son, implying there's a loyal subordinate or relative among the captives somewhere.
But the third line stumped even her, didn't it? She basically just admitted, I can't explain this one yet.
She was honest about the limits of her interpretation, which actually lends some credence to the part she could explain. But her most vital interpretation, the one that directly influences Du Jiande's immediate survival, comes from the fourth line.
And it all comes down to a shared surname. How can a common name possibly guarantee clemency for an enemy of the state?
It's an incredibly clever piece of, well, political theology. Zaoi points out the obvious connection. The Empress's name is Du, and the captive Du Jian shares that name. She then invokes this principle of water source and tree root, arguing that this implies a fundamental connection, that they are like one body or, kin by origin.
So she's basically arguing that because the Empress and the captive share a root, Du Jiande's crime has to be pardoned, and that would fulfill the Arhat's request.
Precisely. It's a compelling, religiously sanctioned argument for clemency that's based on a, frankly, superficial connection. But in a world where cosmic harmony and spiritual alignment were paramount to ruling legitimacy, this interpretation carries enormous weight. It gives the imperial family a legitimate, non-political reason to avoid the messy business of executing a formidable rival.
So the spiritual imperative is pointing toward clemency for Du Jiande. But the real-world political calculation, driven by the military mind of Qin Wang, presents an immediate counter-argument.
Qin Wang is the pragmatist in the room, and he objects strongly. He sees Du Jiande as a fierce tiger, a capable and very popular leader.
His logic is simple.
Very simple. If you release a tiger, it's easy to let it go, but difficult, maybe impossible to recapture. He's afraid Du Jiande would pose an immediate future threat to the stability of the Tang dynasty.
And despite this intense strategic objection from his own chief general, the emperor, Tang Di, makes the final ruling. And he chooses caution and compromise, not immediate adherence to the prophecy.
Right. He finds a way to satisfy both the spiritual concerns and the political necessities by dealing with the other captives first. Zhu Kan, whose actions were generally characterized as cruel and unkind in the sources, is ordered to be immediately beheaded. That verdict is based purely on merit and swift justice.
And Wang Shichong, because the prophecy's second line mentioned a filial son.
Wang Shichong is spared immediate execution. He is ordered to be brought before the emperor for a specific interrogation. And the purpose, to determine if a filial son can be found among his subordinates or his own family.
So the prophecy is directly guiding their interrogation strategy.
It is. They're actively looking for this filial son because the poem told them to.
So what's the ultimate fate of Du Jiande, the central figure in the dream and the Gatha?
Well, while Qin Wang remains highly suspicious of releasing the fierce tiger, the combined influence of the Empress's dream and Zaoi's powerful interpretation of the shared Du surname, it places a temporary stay on his execution. His fate is postponed, pending further imperial decision. And it just demonstrates the direct, immediate influence of spiritual guidance over strategic military necessity. For several of these major defeated warlords, we've got Du Jian, the king of Xia, we have Wang Shichong.
The usurper.
The usurper, yeah. And the fiercely loyal followers around them. These accounts, they aren't dry records. They are just filled with drama.
Our sources give us this really rare look behind the scenes at how justice was, negotiated, not just dictated from on high.
Yeah. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding this really critical transition. We're extracting that fascinating contrast between raw political calculation.
The kind that honors a promise to an enemy you absolutely hate.
Yes. And then these powerful, completely unexpected acts of personal loyalty. You might think, okay, military defeat equals immediate execution, but what happens when a fierce political maneuver meets a daughter who's willing to risk everything for her father?
This is where we see the two systems of value, the political and the personal, just completely collide.
So to set the scene, let's go right into the rear prison in Chang'an. This is where the fates are being decided.
Right in the thick of it.
We find Du Jiande, the king of Xia, and Zhang Jiansen. They're trying to rest after being captured. The night is quiet, but then suddenly
The silence is just shattered.
it's a sound coming from the South Passage.
And the source describes this sound so vividly. I mean, it makes the hair on your neck stand up. It's the terrifying noise of the justice system arriving. It was the shackles and iron chains all trembling.
Just this metallic grinding roar.
Yeah, that sounded like the clanging armor of many soldiers going into battle. It's an incredible image.
So Jiande jumps up, he looks through a crack in the door, and he watches this whole process of justice unfold. And right away, you see this stark contrast in how the Tang court handles different kinds of threats.
First up, Zucan. He gets dragged out.
No ceremony.
None at all. He's bound and led directly to the execution ground. He's destined for immediate public death. The source even notes the specific term, shikazon shu.
Which means?
Execution at the marketplace. It's quick, it's decisive, and it's very symbolic public justice.
But then Wang Shichong follows. Now, Shichong, you have to remember, is arguably the bigger threat. He's the real usurper, the regicide.
He's also bound, but instead of the marketplace, he's taken to face the Tang Emperor himself.
That difference in destination tells you everything, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Zucan's fate was sealed. Shichong's fate, though, that was still up for debate, for negotiation.
So Shichong is in front of the emperor, and he's charged with the absolute worst crimes, usurping the throne, killing the previous ruler. And this is where his infamous cunning comes out.
He was, as the sources say, cunning and tricky. Instead of defending what he did, he immediately deflects. He tries to shift the blame for the whole thing onto his subordinates.
But his main defense, his real argument, it wasn't about innocence. It was completely external.
Right. He pleads for mercy based on one thing, the fact that the Prince of Qin, Li Shimin, had personally promised him that his life would be spared when he surrendered.
And this is the critical political moment. The emperor, despite the sheer gravity of Shichong's crimes, he grants partial mercy.
Shichong is demoted to a commoner, a shorn, and he, his brothers, his nephews, they're all exiled, sent far away to Shuafeng.
So let's pause right there. If you're the new Tang regime, why not just execute him? I mean, this is the guy who killed the emperor who took the throne. If Zucan gets the axe right away, why does Shichong get a pass?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows you regime consolidation at its most complex. Sure, raw vengeance would have been popular.
Like that.
But sparing Shichong signals something far more important for the long-term stability of the Tang. They are placing value on honoring a prince's promise.
Why does that one promise matter so much?
Because the Tang needed future warlords and rivals to believe their terms of surrender. If you execute a man who surrendered based on a royal promise, you're telling every other enemy commander out there, do not surrender, fight to the death.
Ah, okay.
So by sparing Shichong, even just for exile, the Tang establishes this precedent of political consistency, of honor. It makes future surrenders much more likely.
So it's the highest form of political calculation. But if politics is dictating the fate of a king, what dictates the fate of a common loyal soldier? And that question brings us right back to the prison cell.
Yeah, we transition now from this massive political stage of the court to the quiet, heartbreaking confines of the jail cell. This is where those bonds of loyalty are being tested one last time.
We look first at Shan Xiansun, Du Jian's general. His loyal servant, Shan Quan, has somehow found his way in. This servant just kneels and weeps, holding his master's knees. It's an incredibly raw, emotional farewell.
And Xianzhi's reaction is just fascinating because it's so selfless and pragmatic. He doesn't wallow in their shared grief.
No, he cuts it right off.
He instructs Shan Quan to stop crying immediately and focus on his future duty, caring for Shansun's wife and daughter. He actually tells him to leave, saying his presence would disturb my peace of mind.
Wow. So he's already accepted his fate, and he's using his last bit of energy to make sure his family is safe.
Exactly. Now contrast that with Sananzu, whose devotion to Du Jiande is just singular and absolute. Jiande is genuinely shocked to see him. He thought Anzu had already gone home to Le Shou.
They have this long, quiet conversation. The source says they speak Jizjino.
Right. Intimately and softly. And then Jiande urges him to go home to handle logistics, bearing casualties, including Queen Cao. He's essentially trying to do what Jiangxin did.
Release his retainer from duty before his execution.
But Anzu refuses. He just will not leave his master's side. He's unwavering. He's choosing to follow Jiande's personal path, whatever that might be.
This contrast is so crucial. Shichong, to save his own skin, threw his officials under the bus.
And here, in this prison, you have generals who are about to die, receiving this incredibly deep personal loyalty from men who could just walk away. It highlights loyalty as a personal currency, something totally separate from the political math the emperor is doing.
And it's that raw personal allegiance that is about to explode onto the political stage and try to change a death sentence. So the emperor is back in court, dealing with the daily grind, when an official comes forward with a pretty shocking announcement.
It completely disrupts the entire proceeding.
He's told 2 women are waiting outside, demanding an audience with him. And the way they're presenting themselves is just. It's a state of extreme humility and supplication.
They are bound and holding knives in their mouths.
Can you just imagine the spectacle? The sources describe their appearance. They're in blue robes, their arms are bare, which is a symbolic act of submission.
And there's this one detail that jumps out, that they were walking on narrow golden lotuses, which signals their high status, even as they're presenting themselves as prisoners.
And the emperor is immediately struck by their sheer presence, their heroic spirit and captivating aura.
He treats them with respect, which is really crucial here. He shows immediate deference, he orders the knives removed, and has them brought up to the inner court to speak.
The first to speak is Du Xinian. She identifies herself simply as the daughter of the rebel Du Jiande. And her request, it's just breathtaking. She asks to take her father's punishment in his place.
But this is not just some desperate emotional plea. Xianyang is performing a masterful rhetorical maneuver here. She knows that just sentiment isn't going to be enough.
So what does she do?
She launches straight into this powerful legal and political argument. And she uses the emperor's own previous action-sparing Wang Shichong as her foil.
She points out the inconsistency. She basically argues, look, Shichong, a regicide and a usurper, was granted mercy, exile. But my father, Jiande, he actually performed far greater services for the Tang.
And she lists them, right. She details how he fought the murderous Yuan Huaji, how he organized a proper funeral for the previous emperor, and most crucially, how he had previously shown clemency to the Tang by returning the emperor's own brother and the Tongan princess.
She basically concludes that if Shichong was spared based on a prince's promise, then her father, who did all these demonstrably better deeds, surely deserves mercy, which she's willing to buy with her own life.
She forces the emperor into a corner. He has to either adhere to his own standard of justice or look grossly inconsistent and vengeful.
The emperor is just astonished. He asks about her companion, since Xianyang had presented herself as an only child.
And that companion is Hua Mulan. Mulan identifies herself as the daughter of Hua Hu from Hebei, and she recounts her famous story taking her father's place in the army.
And then she explains why she's there. She and Xianyang had sworn an oath of sisterhood, and Mulan was there to support her sister's impossible plea.
The emperor is just utterly moved by this whole display. He calls them the 2 goods most rare.
So was this filial piety or a brilliant political maneuver?
It was both, and that combination required incredible courage. Xianyang was willing to die, which gave her argument this immense moral weight, but she backed it up with unassailable political logic. Her ability to leverage Shichong's case as a precedent is what forced the emperor's hand.
Du Jiande, who's been brought in this whole time, kneeling nearby, he hears the entire exchange. And the emperor, he can't refuse the request of such a heroic daughter, and he's not willing to contradict his own legal precedent.
So he grants the pardon outside the law.
But the immediate political problem is still there. What do you do with Du Jiande? You can't just free him.
Right. The emperor has a real dilemma. If he gives Jiande some minor title, Jiande, who was a king in his own right, he's never going to submit to a lesser position.
And worse, if he's just made a commoner, the emperor worries he might secretly plot a rebellion. He can't forget his former glory, his embroidered mountains and rivers.
The man is too powerful, too charismatic, and way too ambitious to be safely integrated into the Tang political structure.
And then Jiande solves the problem himself, decisively and dramatically.
He declares his complete and utter surrender of all worldly ambition. He requests to immediately shave his head and enter the mountains to become a monk. He wants to leave the dust net of political strife forever.
For the emperor, this is just the perfect, unexpected political gift.
Oh, absolutely. The emperor is thrilled. It's neutralization without a single drop of imperial blood being shed, which only enhances the Tang's image of benevolence.
And it happens immediately. Jiande is renamed Jude, which means great virtue.
Such a powerful symbolic rebrand. He's given an ordination certificate, the duo dai, robes, and is shaved bald right there in the palace hall.
That physical act in front of the whole court, that is the ultimate symbolic surrender. It shows the world that Du Jiande is, for all intents and purposes, politically dead.
It underscores the finality of it. And his statement just summarizes the whole moment perfectly. The moment the butcher's knife is tossed away, the six senses are purified. He's converting a political threat into a harmless spiritual retreat. For the Tang court, this was a masterful piece of political theater.
So while Jiande is transforming from a warlord into a monk, the drama is still going on. Empress Du, who remember shares the surname with Xianyang, summons the two heroic women.
And the Empress's intervention, this is what seals Xianyang's future firmly within the Tang aristocracy. Mulan confirms that Xianyang is already engaged to Luo Cheng,
The heroic and impressive son of the recently ennobled Luo Yi, the Yan County prince. This is a huge political alliance.
It is. And since Xianyang shares the Empress's surname, Empress Du adopts her as a niece. This legitimizes her future status and ensures she has the highest possible protection and lineage within the court.
The rewards then reflect that new standing. Xianyang gets an enormous dowry, 2,000 ounces of silver and 100 bolts of silk.
And Mulan, for her act of loyalty and filial piety, she gets 1,000 ounces of silver and 40 bolts of silk specifically for the care of her parents, and is honorably sent home.
And as the two women are exiting the palace, their own fates now secure, they see Jiande, now named Jude, in his new monk's robes. And who is waiting for him?
Zananzu.
Zananzu.
And he's also dressed as a monk. He's decided his loyalty is not yet fulfilled. He announces he's going to join his master in the wilderness.
What's his reasoning?
He explains that he was the one who encouraged Jiande to take up arms in the first place, and so he feels he must see the journey through to its spiritual end. His loyalty was truly not easily changed by success or failure.
So you have this tearful final farewell between Jude and his daughter, Xianyang. The Empress's attendants insist she go to Lishou to prepare for her future.
While the two new monks are escorted to their final destination, the hidden spirit rock cave where the holy monk Tang Senzang resides, it's this final, definitive parting shot. The daughter enters the highest aristocracy. The father enters monastic life.
And the loyal retainer follows him into the shadows.